Hello to all of my YouTube family, to my many friends, and also to my many enemies. Once again, this is Roosevelt with another episode of Roosevelt Sounds Off. This is Roosevelt Sounds Off Part 17. And as many of you know, I have not done anything or done any videos this year for 2015. So I hope all of you all who are watching are having a very, very prosperous 2015. Moving on from that, this first video that I am doing for this year, this pertains to an issue that has happened recently in the news, and it's an issue that I'm deciding to deal with because I decided to add my voice to the many other voices pertaining to police misconduct, because as you know, that I am a past victim of Chicago police corruption. So therefore today I want to discuss the issue a little bit of the police shooting of Walter Scott that took place in North Charleston, South Carolina around April 4th. As many of you know, because it's been all over the news, that Walter Scott was a black motorist who was just driving, and he was pulled over by a white police officer, Michael Slager, who said that he had was pulling him over because he had a broken tail light. So therefore, and there's two different types of accounts to this. You know, you have the footage that was shot by a cell phone video, and you also have the footage on the dash cam. But I'm going to deal with what I have seen and studied on the dash cam first, because that shows the very beginning of the stop. On the dash cam, it showed that he was just being stopped. That it seemed like the officer was trying to be courteous or whatever. You know, he asked for insurance and, you know, that kind of thing. And then I guess he took his license or whatever he had, and then he walked back to the police car. And usually whenever an officer takes your driver's license and walks back to his police car for a minute, normally they're, you know, always trying to run your name for warrants and all of this other kind of stuff just to see if you want it and all that other kind of jazz or whatever that they do. And when he was in the car, when the officer was in the car, Walter Scott decides to try to get out of the car, but then he's told to get back in the car. And then like a second later, Walter Scott jumps out of the car and starts running. And I guess this officer runs after him, and the cell phone video, which we got to go to next, because the cell phone video shot by a bystander with his iPhone showed that encounter to where this officer actually fired at him 7 to 8 times, ended up shooting him 4 times in his back. Now I think that this kind of thing, or this kind of police misconduct, is completely uncalled for. This kind of thing should not happen. And it's basically a sign of the kind of tyranny and kind of terrorism that all of us as regular citizens face here in Chicago and face all over this country because of police wanting to shoot black men. To me, I think the police departments all across this country have declared war against black men, because you never ever hear about white people being shot at the same rate of black people. Even if you had to take the case of James Holmes, who was a white man who was found guilty, or I guess that, or allegedly, if you remember, shot up a movie theater in Colorado. And he actually killed several people. When the police came, the only thing they did was just simply arrest him. They didn't shoot him. But it just seems like anytime it's a black man, they're the ones who always stand a chance on possibly getting shot. I always say that it's my fear of living here in Chicago that if I'm not murdered by one of these thugs, I'm going to be killed by a police officer. Because one thing it seems like police don't want, too, is also for people or citizens to speak out about their bad behavior. Because almost 2 years ago when I first started Roosevelt Sounds Off. And it was about my experience and what I experienced that was bad at the hands of the Chicago police. I was told by a certain friend of mine who works for the police department, who shall remain nameless, only he knows exactly who he is, that Roosevelt Sounds Off, is certain things you should not, I have to quote, certain things you should not sound off about. Now this is my story. I'm telling my story. But yet I'm not, I think that I faced an injustice by the Chicago police, but I'm not supposed to say anything. I'm not supposed to tell my story. Because it seems like people every place, all over, no matter what police do, if you find people who work for the police department, even regular citizens who want to try to justify them in whatever kind of dirt that they do. Now, if I was a victim of any other kind of crime, if someone murdered one of my family members, if someone broke into my home, or if I was sexually assaulted, people would encourage me to go after and to pursue justice, and don't stop until justice is done. People would encourage me to do it. So the problem I had at the time, in my case, was one of my neighbors who's a police officer lied and had the home I stay in raided. And it was the wrong thing because she completely lied. So, and the thing is, got away with it. But yet, I'm not supposed to want justice. I'm not supposed to tell my story. According to some of you all out there, I'm not supposed to say any of this kind of stuff. And I just think that it's bad because I think that anytime that you do face an injustice, whether it be by a regular person, a regular person I can almost understand doing something to you, or doing something wrong, or doing something bogus. Or like, I can understand like a thug maybe shooting at another thug. Because that's just their nature. It's the nature of the beast. It is whatever it is. But whenever you're a police officer, you are held to a much more higher standard than the average thug on the street. You should not carry yourself and be acting and even be speaking the way that regular people on the street do. You should it's all in how you carry yourself and how you can stand your ground. And some police officers that I've seen don't stand their ground and don't carry themselves very well. I've seen a whole lot who say many cuss words than what you or I would say. But yet the worst thing is, if you curse, especially if you're being arrested or if you're upset or agitated and you curse at one of them, the first thing that they want to try to do is just lock you up. What charge? And anytime that we get to the state that we cannot question the actions of the police department, it's the same as almost living in a police state. I'm a free man. I don't live in a police state. You can't tell me what to do or where to go. I'm a free man. As long as my actions are in accordance with the law. You can't tell me where to go or what to do. I'm free. But anytime we get to the part where people are actually saying that we cannot question the actions and behavior of the police, then I think that we are living in a sad time because we are living in a police state. When we see the Michael Brown shooting and the Eric Garner killing in New York, and they talk about the solution is, in this kind of a case, is to put body cameras on every single police officer. The killing and the murder of Eric Garner in New York was captured on a cell phone video. What good is a body camera going to do when we see it and the officer still is not indicted by a grand jury? What good is it going to do? But yet, some of you all, and some of my critics out there, try to sit up and try to say that I'm supposed to be quiet. It'll be a cold day in hell first. Now, to look at it from the other side, because I've had critics of mine who have watched a whole lot of my videos that always tell me, Roosevelt, you always talk about the bad and everything that the police do, but you never talk about the good ones. because there are good cops. Okay, I understand that argument. Good, fine. I understand I'm not dumb or ignorant or illiterate by any stretch of the imagination. First of all, to all of my viewers, I understand that there are good police officers out there, and a whole lot of them, they do a good job in securing and taking care of, in serving and protecting the citizens of this country. You got to give that to them. They do a good job in fighting crime and fighting the criminal element out on the street. Because I'm not there saying ever that we don't need a society with no police. Yes, please do not get me wrong. Police are needed. Because it's no kind of a way that us as regular good citizens could walk the streets of this country without having police. So it all serves a purpose. But at the same time, the police who serve and protect us should not be guilty of committing the same crimes that they want to lock us up for. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, the good ones. Yeah, there's a whole lot of them who are good. And I said it in a video and everything before, that maybe some of us who, are stopped by the police, maybe, just maybe, we should maybe carry ourselves a little bit much more respectful. Maybe we shouldn't do certain things out there. Maybe we shouldn't do certain things or committing crimes to cause some of our own problems. Maybe we just need to come up a little bit more. And it's one critical thing that I feel in this video, since I'm trying to look, not only looking at, one particular side of Officer Slager's bad behavior, but I also want to look at the behavior of Walter Scott. Now, maybe, just maybe, he was wrong for getting out the car and running. Because I was always taught, even as a little boy, that's something that you don't do, is get out of a car or go and run away from a police officer. Because even if you aren't guilty of doing anything, when you run, it makes you look like you are guilty or of doing something. And some people have said, and some people in his family have said, that maybe he ran because he has a warrant, or had a warrant on him, for maybe because they claim that he was in the rears for over $18,000 of child support. So I guess that he had that warrant on him, and I guess nobody wants to go to jail. But at the same time, just because this person ran from this police officer, the police officer is only supposed to call for backup and do the best that he can to catch him. He's not supposed to pull out a gun and shoot him, because there's no justifying that. This officer was just pissed off that Mr. Scott ran from him, so he decides to take out a gun and shoot him in his back. And the worst part about it is he would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for one brave soul who was there and videotaped the whole thing on his iPhone. Because at first, Officer Slager was going to lie. He called in, because I heard the tape myself. I heard the call when he called this dispatcher. Oh man, I had to shoot him. He was struggling for fighting me for my taser. It was not true, because Walter Scott had not even walked up to him to even touch him or struggle for him with his taser. And even, I don't know, but they said allegedly, because I have to say allegedly because so far it hasn't been proved, that even when he was down on the ground, they said it looks like Officer Slager was trying to plant evidence or trying to drop the taser like close to him or something, just so it could look that way. And then you had a black officer come into the frame, and the black officer in his report claimed that he gave him CPR, but none of that took place according to what the videotape showed. So just like they arrested Michael Slager, they need to fry his behind too. It's just more evidence, like I always say, of bad police protecting one another. That's what that was. And it should not be. Shouldn't happen. But thank God that there was somebody who was around videotaping what went on and what happened. Because if this was not caught on tape, he very well easily could have gotten away with it. When the tape surfaced, one thing I can congratulate their town about is that the police chief fired him and they charged him with murder, and he's sitting in jail awaiting trial right now. But the thing is, this is still far from over. He still has to be convicted. This is far from over. Because, and this is how come I said that I feel that, presenting the other side again, that Walter Scott should not have run from the police. Because I'm pretty sure his, or Slager's defense attorney could always say that, well, you know, Mr. Scott ran from my client, so my client thought that he had a weapon, and so he was in fear of his life, and so he had to shoot him in defense of his life. Any defense attorney could probably try to use it to hang their hat on. So that's how come I said, if it were me, I think I would have just taken the arrest and ended up still alive rather than end up dead or take a chance on being shot. And I'm just glad it was videotaped. And it seems like now the public as a whole, especially if we got to come back home to Chicago, they made a law here in Chicago late last year making it a crime or a felony to videotape the police, especially in private. They made this a crime. I think that anyone should be videotaped whenever they're doing something wrong, especially police officers, because they're public servants who are there to serve and protect the public of this city. So therefore, if it's a police officer out doing his job, if he's a public servant, he should not have any expectations of privacy whenever you're supposed to be serving and protecting the citizens of this city. Because that's what you took an oath to do. After you got out of the academy, and I'm speaking right now to some of you crooked officers out there, yes, and even a whole lot of you good ones. Listen, after you got out of the academy, and after your graduation, before you pinned on that badge, you stood up and you raised your right hand, and you took an oath and a vow to serve and protect, first of all, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I have to say that because some laws, and just like some officers, whenever they violate laws, it goes against what the Constitution of the United States, which governs this country, teaches and says. You took a vow to, first of all, defend the Constitution of the United States and to defend the Constitution of the state of Illinois or whatever state you're in, and to serve and protect the citizens of whatever city that you're in. You work for the citizens. Yes, you work for the citizens. But it seems like so many police departments themselves, it seems like they don't want to serve and work in the best interest of the citizens. It works and serves in the best interest of themselves. Why? Because it seems like they, no matter what kind of wrong a whole lot of them do, they want to stick together. And people say that they're good cops. Okay, good. Maybe there are. But I think that there will be even better cops if some of the good cops would actually squill on the bad cops. Because anytime you're a so-called good cop and you have a partner who's crooked or corrupt, who does something wrong, and you go along with it, and you are quiet, and you don't say anything, it makes you just as bad. If I'm out on the street and see something wrong happening to someone, maybe I'm walking down the street and pass an alley and see a little child being abducted, or see a woman about to get sexually assaulted. If I don't step in, if I don't say anything, it makes me just as bad. If you see, this is to you good officers out there, especially good God-fearing officers. You know, some of you all who go to church and call yourselves Christians. It's up to you to stand up and give a new standard to our nation's police departments. You are here to protect the citizens, not here to always look after yourself, but to protect the citizens which you swore an oath to protect and uphold their rights. So I have to talk about this kind of a thing because this issue is very near and dear to my heart. Because I see or have seen a lot of things on how I know how I got treated during my experience with the police department. I know how I got cussed at. I got called so many N-words and MFs at the time, it was a shame. Being a police officer seems like it's the only profession to where an officer or someone who works on a police department can cuss you out and there's nothing no one can do about it. If I was in Walgreens in the checkout line and the cashier started to curse at me, I can guarantee you that she'd probably be looking for another job in the morning. Police officers can mistreat you and even kill you and almost get away with it no matter what kind of bag that you're in. And this is not supposed to be in a free society. And I'm the kind of person that, yes, I just don't come out and let someone just come and talk sideways to me all because they want to. A whole lot of you police officers I've seen, I'm not going to say all of you, but I've seen some of you, a whole lot of you, just talk sideways to people for nothing. You know, you might pull a person out the car. A person might ask you how come they're being stopped, how come they're being held, or how come, and at that point, and the first thing a whole lot of officers want to do is look, but be like, ma'am, sir, shut up. My own mother and father don't tell me to shut up. Who are you? So now this is an issue that is very near and dear to my heart. So we have to just sit and see how this Michael Slager thing is going to turn out. I'm just glad that the mayor of the city of North Charleston, South Carolina, did the right thing in this case, and the police chief did the right thing in this case, and that right now they said that they have ordered body cameras for every single police officer in their department. We just got to see how this thing plays out. And it's just too bad and it's just too tragic that this thing has cost somebody their life. It has cost somebody their freedom. I mean, because a whole lot of us have had bad experiences with the police that could have ended in death. And it's only by the grace of God that I'm even still here to tell what happened to me. And we just have to see how this thing plays out. So I'm just hoping that no matter what, whichever way it goes, that the truth will come out, and that no matter what, that we all remain cool, and that we all remain calm, and that we all, most of all, pray for justice. Pray that these wrongs in our American society, in our American judicial system, these wrongs could be made right. Yes. That's what I'm hoping for. So let's just see how this thing turns out. And right now, I'm about to end this segment of Roosevelt Sounds Off. If anybody enjoyed this video, be sure that you watch, be sure that you share, and be sure that you like, and be sure that you comment. Hope to hear and see some of you all out there a little bit much more in 2015. And I hope to talk to you all later or come to you later on with another video. And yes, I will be researching and staying on top of this case as well as others. Once again, this is Roosevelt for Roosevelt Sounds Off. Signing off. Peace.